Dear Chairman of Conference, conference participants and guests, I would like to represent the results of our study on the theme Methods of Environmental Monitoring, Analysis and Assessment of the Consequences of Military Actions. Our study analyzes the environmental impact of military operations in Ukraine, focusing on damage assessment and correlation between war-related activities and ecological degradation. Using canonical correlation analysis, the study evaluates the relationships between military actions, such as destroyed equipment, fires and mine areas, and environmental consequences like air, soil, and water pollution. It's a great honor for me to introduce our team of researchers today. So let me briefly introduce everyone. Olga Maslak, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor, Head of Economics Department, Kremenchuk, Mykhailo, Ostrohradskyi National University. Maria Maslak, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Associated Professor, Professor of Marketing Department, National Technical University, Kharkiv, Polytechnic Institute. Olga Hlazunova, Associated Professor, PhD in Economics, Kremenchuk, Mykhailo, Ostrohradskyi National University. Natalia Hryshko, Associated Professor, PhD in Economics, Kremenchuk, Mykhailo, Ostrohradskyi National University. And Pirogov, Associated Professor, PhD in Technical Sciences, Kremenchuk, Mykhailo, Ostrohradskyi University. The military operations on the territory of Ukraine, which began in 2014 and escalated with the start of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation in 2022, have devastating consequences not only for the country's infrastructure and economy, but also for the environment. Explosions, fires, pollution with chemicals and heavy metals, and destroying natural ecosystems cause irreparable harm. According to estimates of Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine, the damage caused to the environment due to the war exceeds $60 billion as of August 2024. Land resources and atmospheric air have suffered the most. The war threatens the unique ecosystem and biodiversity of Ukrainian reserves. Fires are frequent in the occupied territories. Military equipment is deployed, and the territories themselves have suffered from flooding. The consequences of the war are felt not only in Ukraine, but also in other European countries. Rising CO2 emissions, temporary pollution of the Black Sea, and missile and drone crashes in neighboring countries are just a few illustrative examples. This study aims to analyze the relationship between different aspects of the environment impact of military operations in Ukraine. We hypothesize that intensive military activity directly affects environmental degradation. Specifically, we consider canonical variables, linear combinations of the original variables that maximize correlations to help understand which aspects of military activity are most strongly associated with specific environmental changes in the context of globalization. This study aims to quantify these correlations and provide a basis for future ecological restoration and risk assessment efforts. Since canonical correlation analysis allows us to describe the relationships between two sets of variables, let us consider two sets of them, x and y. In our case, we use canonical correlation analysis to study the relationship between these two sets of variables. First set is variables describing technical, environmental, and other aspects relating to military operations, and the second set is presented by environment. So these are variables describing environmental consequences such as water, soil, atmospheric pollutions, and other indicators. Here one can see a dataset we have used. Finding such linear combinations of variables from both groups with the most significant correlation is necessary to achieve the study's goal. The analysis was performed in the R environment, where the following stages were implemented. First one, data preparation and creation of separate data frames. Second one, multi-collinearity checking calculations of correlations matrices for each block of variables, which will be presented on the next slide. and also subsequent removal of variables with still high correlations, which was higher than 0.9 to avoid the problem of multicollinearity. And third one, scaling of variables using the scale function to normalize the data. Here we mean centering the mean value at 0 and reducing the variance to 1. The fourth was the direct canonical correlation analysis. Here we can see that all indicators of military operations, for example, destroyed equipment, area and number of fires, mined areas, etc., are highly correlated. This indicates that different aspects of military operations have similar trends and often change synchronously. For example, the destruction of equipment and the scale of fires can be directly related. Changes in environmental indicators are also very highly correlated with each other. Pollution indicators, NO2, water, soil, atmosphere are highly correlated, indicating that pollution of one component of the environment is likely to be accompanied by pollution of others. Further analysis showed the presence of statistically significant canonical correlations between anthropogenic factors and environmental indicators, which are presented in Table 2. The following canonical correlation coefficients were obtained. The first canonical relationship is 0.974, which explains 95% of the common variation between military actions and environmental impact. The second canonical relationship is 0.933, which explains 87% of the common variation. And the third canonical relationship is 0.860, which explains 74% of the standard variation. The first canonical variable is more strongly associated with the amount of destroyed equipment and NO2, indicating a strong impact of military equipment destruction on air pollution. The second canonical variable indicates that significant military losses lead to destructive fires that affect the quality of water resources. Finally, the third canonical variable is associated with mined territory and damage to reserves. Thus, the canonical analysis confirms that military actions have a long-term adverse effect on environmental resources. The main impact factors are the destruction of equipment, fires, and mining of territories. The most vulnerable sectors are air quality, NO2, water resources, and protected areas. Conclusions. War against Ukraine is causing irreparable damage to the environment. It will take years and significant efforts to eliminate the consequences and restore the ecosystem. Green recovery is a necessity and an opportunity for Ukraine to become a more environmentally sustainable and energy-independent country. The canonical correlation analysis is a practical research tool for complex relationships in the human environment system. The results reveal strong correlations, indicating that military activity significantly contributes to environmental degradation. The study highlights that air quality, NO2 emissions, water resources, and natural reserves are the most affected. These findings emphasize the long-term ecological consequences of war and underscore the need for environmental restoration and green recovery initiatives. Canonical analysis allows us to evaluate the joint influence of military actions on environmental parameters. The most significant factors here are NO2 emissions, water pollution, and damage to natural territories. These results emphasize that military actions have a powerful and comprehensive impact on the environmental situation, particularly on air, water, and soil pollution, as well as on natural resources. High correlations between variables in both groups show that certain types of military actions are directly related to environmental consequences, which is important of planning measures to minimize environmental damage during conflicts. Thank you for your attention very much. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer.